Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Welcome to my channel. My name is Gary. You can also call me Cayman. And welcome to my haven. Joining me today, once again, it's my
Hello.
favorite guest. She's my really awesome friend, very smart, very talented, and just one of the nicest people I know. And she's also a fellow Blink as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Hannah. Hey, Hannah.
Hello again. I hope you guys aren't sick of me.
No. Of course, we really enjoy having you here. Thank you so much, actually, for coming back. And today we're actually going to do another Blackpink video. So we are going to be reviewing the Blackpink Netflix documentary that just dropped like this week. It will be next week by the time you see this video. And so the documentary is called Light Up the Sky. Hannah, can you believe it? We're doing another Blackpink video.
Yay! I will never get sick of talking about Blackpink.
I know, yeah. Basically, there are two things I want to address. In our last Blackpink video, I said that I wasn't going to watch the documentary. And I don't know what I was thinking at the time. I think part of it is me being a little bit pretentious, thinking I'm too cool for school. Another part of it is that I have a bit of a fear that I was going to form an attachment to the Blackpink members, and I was afraid I was going to fall, head over heels for them. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just the person that said all those things. He's an idiot, I don't know who that guy is. So, because when the documentary dropped, I was so excited. And what can I say? Blackpink turned me from a casual fan to a lovesick boy, I guess. So, but yeah, I'm here to talk about it. I'm really excited to have Hannah talk about it with me. And the second thing is Blackpink dropped a new album 2 weeks ago. There's 8 songs, 24 minutes. It's considerably short compared to most music albums. But for a Blackpink fan, it's a treasure trove of exquisite goodness. And then they dropped a music video as well on the same day. And then in less than 2 weeks, we have a Blackpink documentary. So my question to you, Hannah, is there such a thing as too much Blackpink?
No, there is never. No, cannot believe that is a question. No, there's never too much Blackpink.
Yes, of course. Yes, I completely agree with you as well. Previously, when you wanted to know more about Blackpink, right? You wanted to know how they audition, how they first formed the band together. You had to go to the internet. You had to go to YouTube. You had to watch fan videos and see fan posted videos of the audition and stuff. So this documentary really helps to fill in all the gaps of things that you wanted to know. Do you feel like this documentary gave you an insight and a glimpse into how they came together as a band? Did it provide any information for you that you didn't already know before? And overall, how did you feel about Light Up the Sky?
So again, I've been following Blackpink since they've debuted. In 2016. So the marketing for Blackpink was, I wouldn't say secretive, but it wasn't very in your face. From what I remember is that we all knew that Jennie was going to be a part of it. Yeah. She was quite one of those standout trainees. So I knew that Jennie was going to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And then what YG Entertainment does, so the company that I guess is in charge of Blackpink, they put hints. So for example, G-Dragon, who is a member of Big Bang, he actually released the song with Rosie.
Yeah.
But at that time, we didn't know it was Rosie. I think in the album, it's actually called Question Mark.
Yes.
So I think YG is very secretive with their marketing. And I'm pretty sure I didn't know about Lisa or Jisoo. So it was, when they debuted, it was very wow. So it was really good in this documentary to kind of see how they became a team, what their audition process was like. And the fact that a lot of them, it was 4 to 5 years of training before they actually debuted. And the way that they discussed how the training process worked was definitely really insightful. But yeah, I felt that Blackpink, when they came out, we knew it was coming and knew it was big, but it wasn't very in your face like a lot of other K-pop companies. So that mysteriousness around them really intrigued me.
Yeah.
But overall, I really enjoyed the documentary. It really did give me a bit of insight into each of the members.
Yeah.
I did feel it was a little bit weak in terms of Jisoo. I wanted more of Jisoo. Jisoo's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I really enjoyed it. I did have a bit of a cry as well, especially towards the end, how far that they've become.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
what about you?
I'm glad to hear, Hannah. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed the documentary as well. I cannot believe that I said I didn't want to see it. So that was, I take all of that back. As somebody who doesn't really know much about like Blackpink, I felt like the documentary did a good job of, just peeling back the curtain a little bit, giving us an inside look at what these members are like away from the camera, like away from the stage presence, the music videos. Just get to know them as personalities and individuals. And I think the documentary, was able to provide a lot of information that I didn't know about. So there was a lot of very surprising things that this documentary showed to me. And I also think that aside from being very informative, I also felt like the documentary struck a really nice balance of being educational, but also kind of fun and kind of heartfelt and inspiring and also really entertaining to watch. So, and by the end, I also felt like, I have a newfound appreciation for each individual members. I am, so much more in love with them now, I guess. So, but that's sort of like where I'm at. I do have a few things that I kind of like want to discuss with you. Things that I don't think were necessarily like negatives, but things maybe that I wanted more. So we'll talk about it like towards the end, I guess. Hannah.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do we feel about spoilers? Is there anything that could be spoiled, here? I don't really think so, right? Like, I feel like there's nothing.
I mean, if you don't really know about the backstory of some of the, like, how Jennie or how Jisoo or how all those girls came to be, I guess that would be a spoiler. We are going to be discussing stuff in the documentary, so I guess that's a spoiler. But I guess because it's not an actual movie, you know that Blackpink is on the top of their game right now. So
I guess it's not really a spoiler when it's sort of based in real life, right? So I guess for everyone who's watching, if you haven't seen the documentary, just feel free to go and watch the documentary. I don't think we're going to be giving away anything that's like majorly spoiler, I guess. Like, it's hard to define spoiler when it's like real life. So so go watch the documentary if you feel like you want to go in fresh and experience it without secondhand knowledge. Let's like start from the from the start of the documentary. I like the sort of like them in like a van, just sort of like driving around Seoul, and there's a camera in the van and we just get to like talk to them like individually, and it's kind of like really chill and really like relaxed. And then from there on we sort of like meet the music producer, Teddy Park.
I think Teddy Park, I think, is a very great character to really introduce, because he's written every single song for Blackpink, and so that means that he's definitely he's Blackpink in and of itself, really. He's a major player, basically. I think definitely he has to be responsible for that unique sound that Blackpink has. So it's really good to really interview him and kind of see how he thinks about it, and how the close relationship that he has with the girls as well is really good. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I really like Teddy Park. He had a really like interesting personality, and he was very expressive. Two things I noticed. One, he spoke really good English, was very, very articulate. And then the second thing is, I noticed he was wearing a mask. He was wearing a mask in the studio. And at first I was like, I was wondering, is this like pre-COVID or like post-COVID? Like, it's hard to say when the documentary first started, but it's really weird. So he was wearing a mask in the studio, and I was like, maybe he's just wearing it because of COVID. But then they show us a photo later where he took photos with the girls like early on in their career, and he was also wearing a mask in the photo. And I was like, what is the deal with the mask? I definitely did not pick that up.
I was like, maybe is he trying to like hide his
identity
or something?
Maybe. That's actually something I definitely didn't think about.
Like he was like, he didn't want people to know what he looked like. But then it's weird because later on they show him in like a band rapping and we see his full face. So I just thought that was interesting. So we have the studio session with Teddy Park. From that moment on, we sort of moved to what is arguably my favorite conceit in a documentary, which is when they start to talk about, like, they start showing us all the audition videos, their training videos, and we get some like interviews with each individual members. And usually at this point of the documentary, we have like the talking heads and the interviews. Like, we just have people talking to the camera, and then they show you clips of like, how it all began and never before seen footage of them. What this documentary does, and what I think is so genius, is that instead of just showing us those clips and those interviews, they actually have all four of the individual members in a movie theater, and they get to watch themselves. Like they get to watch their own audition videos. They get to watch the videos of themselves do the training and singing together. So it's great because we actually get to see them react and observe and reflect on like how it all began for them, and those early like days. And I just thought that was like really genius.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also that idea that it's like, now that you're 20 or 30 and you look back at how you were when you were 10 years ago, you're kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe I was that. And I think they recognize in themselves that they have grown as people, not only as artists, but just how much they've changed both visually, personality-wise, emotionally. I think it's really fun to watch. And them just laughing at themselves is just so cute as well.
Yeah, it's really adorable, like you just get them, like sort of being sort of loving and making fun and supporting each other and talking about like, oh my God, like just watching them react. I think that adds a little bit to the documentary. So from this point onwards, it's like they're exploring each individual member. So we start with Jennie, and I kind of like the order that they explore each individual members. Basically, they start with the person that joined YG Entertainment first. So they start with Jennie. So she's the earliest member that joined the team. Yeah, so Jennie has been there for 6 years, which is pretty crazy.
When Jennie's on stage, she's so tough, she's so badass. And then when seeing this documentary, you really see a very vulnerable side of her, I felt. I personally didn't know that it was just her and her mother. So the fact that she was able to be so open in this documentary, and it really gave me a different perspective of what Jennie was. Because to be honest, Jennie has been in a bit of controversy because of her face, that she's quite, badass, and then, there's things about her having a resting bitch face and things like that, and I think
she's arrogant.
Yeah, she's arrogant, and I personally never saw that. I think people forget that these girls are human; they're allowed to be sad or whatever. They have a normal face, but this documentary really, I thought, opened up Jennie, made her very, very vulnerable, and it gave me a very different perspective on her. Like I love Jennie. I don't find any fault with her, but I think people who don't like Jennie, I think will really, I guess, see where she's coming from, and I think they'll really begin to love her as well.
Yeah.
What are your?
No, I agree. Like Jennie, for me, like I said in the previous video that she's like my second favorite, and I think for me, like her music video persona, her screen and stage persona is that she's really badass, and she's really like out there, and like very expressive, very like kick-ass. So I think, it was a bit of a surprise to find that like she's actually really shy in real life. And her sort of section sort of begins with her having a Pilates session with her Pilates instructor. And one of the sort of controversies that I've heard, or like, fans like complaining, was that they've observed that like she apparently doesn't try very hard with the dancing choreography, or like she's like sort of failing to keep up a little bit. And then I think this portion of the documentary kind of reveals why. It's because she's just physically unable to keep up with the dancing, and the dancing's so grueling sometimes, and we see that she has to do constant stretching and stuff like that. And some different people are different, like like some people just like physically can't keep up with the demands of the dancing sometimes. And it's good that she's trying, and she's like making an effort and stuff.
I think that part really makes people recognize that these girls are human, that they have faults. And it was really funny. I remember in the documentary, Jennie was like, oh, I know I'm only like 24, 25, but I feel like I'm an old woman. I have a body of an old woman, and that just made me laugh. And yeah, it was just pretty funny.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
She's pretty badass.
Yeah, I think so
That's
too.
all I can really say.
Yeah.
She's badass, but she has that sense of vulnerability in her, and I think we need to give her a break.
Yes.
A lot of fans criticize her, but this really opens her.
That like fans just need to cut her a bit of slack a little bit, because there's other things that she's bringing to the table as well. So so for sure. Do you want to talk about Lisa? Yes. Lisa's your favorite member, so we gotta talk about Lisa. So we get into the
I'll
Lisa
let you go first.
Lisa. So Lisa, I really like Lisa. Like her part of the documentary, it's amazing. We actually get to see her speak Thai. really surprised to find out that she actually did not speak a single word of Korean when she auditioned. There's a scene where she goes to like
vintage store,
like a clothing store. Yeah. And she's like buying stuff and stuff. And she's like, you know, every day just doing shopping, and she talks.
She's so cute. I love how she's like, my mum is in charge of my spending, and I'm just like, you're a woman, but your mum is still in charge. That just made me laugh.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then when she was buying the stuff, like there was a shirt that she was buying, and it was like something 1.1 million. And I'm not familiar with Korean currency, so what does 1.1 million translates to?
I think it's like take off 3 zeros, so maybe $1,000 for a t-shirt or something.
Oh, right.
I think.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's like 1.1. So 1,100, I would say.
Yeah. So that's how. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's the won, right? Korean won. Yeah. Okay.
I really, I think we don't really give Lisa enough credit.
Yes.
As like, what I mean by that is we know that she's a great dancer, but there's a part in the documentary where they say that she actually choreographed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And you're right, with the language as well. The thing is, you haven't seen her speak Thai, but I've watched her on some variety shows as well. So there's a Chinese variety show this year that she was on. The fact that she can speak English, Thai, Korean, but she does this interchangeably as well. She obviously is smart. I can barely speak English without like fumbling on my words. So the fact that she can speak 3 languages fluently, like we really need to give her very impressive. She was there when she was 15 to learn a language, you know, with 5 years or something like that. I just think she's a lot smarter and a lot more incredible than we see her as on the outside. We just see her as the rapper, the dancer, but 3 languages is amazing as well, and the dancing, the choreography, and she's just a ball of sunshine. Like throughout the documentary, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, Lisa makes us smile," and that type of stuff. And also, in the release of this documentary, the day before, they had this YouTube live Q&A. And then there was a question that the MC asked, and they were like, "Oh, who is the one that brings you up?" And I'm pretty sure it was between Jisoo and Lisa, but like just seeing the documentary, you can see that she's a very positive person as well.
Yeah. Which is an aspect that they actually touched on in the documentary, how she's like the really positive one. So when everyone's feeling down, she's the one that's, you know, cheering everybody up, trying to lift everyone's spirits, and we just like see that she just brings a very positive energy and to everybody else. And you need someone like that in a group. You know, you need someone who's going to be like a supporter, who's going to be a cheerleader, I guess, in a way. And I think she fits that role like pretty well. And so like I have a huge respect for Lisa. Like after watching this documentary, I just have a new I'm just completely blown away by like Lisa. I think Lisa is like, I got to know a lot more about her. So like that was amazing, and her dancing is like phenomenal. So just very talented. And like Jennie even mentioned that like, oh, you know, some people are just born to do this thing, and she was, you know, saying that to refer to Lisa, because Lisa was the second person to join in after that. And then we get to actually see her talents on display, which is pretty cool. We want to talk about Jisoo. Let's talk about Jisoo. So you said that you felt like they didn't show enough of her, or like you felt like they could have shown more. So so after Lisa, my next favorite is Jisoo. I think they were very correct in her personality, that she's very witty. But I think I don't, at least not on the top of my head, I don't remember seeing her audition video or anything like that. I can't remember. And I remember even after watching the documentary, I was like, oh, they didn't really show much of Jisoo by herself as a trainee. The only scene that they really showed was her in that the makeup store. And what really shocked me was that her, firstly, I think I read that she's a very private person, which is fair enough. So I don't think they were going to show a lot of her. But the fact that her like family ostracized her and almost like for being ugly, and I was like, that is shocking.
That is absolutely shocking. They called her a monkey. They like teased her, and I was like, she is literally known to be one of the most beautiful women in the world. And to imagine that her own family member called her that, I was just appalled. Cannot believe it. But I guess it's a good story that like you can evolve into someone as beautiful, like as beautiful as Jisoo, which is so good on her.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was really surprised when she said, like, people said that she was ugly, and then at one point in the video she said, like, oh, do I need to lose more fat or something? I was like, you don't have to lose anything, you look perfect, Jisoo, like, you look amazing. So, and then we move on to my favorite member of the group. Okay, and at first I was like, whoa, they're saving Rosie for last, but it's more just because she was the last one to join the group. Okay, so I was really shocked to know that that she was actually so musically, like, inclined. Like, she was able to play, like, the guitar and the piano, and so I was like, wow, she can play a few musical instruments. I was just really surprised by the fact that, like, yeah, she's like writing her own songs and stuff. And then also the fact that she didn't know how to dance at all. All her audition videos was just her with a guitar just singing. Obviously, she's like a great dancer now, you know. Like,
I think Rose was one of the members I kind of knew quite a bit about, because obviously she's from Australia and then we're from Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there was something, what I really liked about her part was that they showed her in the music room and then she was playing the guitar and they kind of just like, that shot was, that was really beautiful. And I felt actually a little bit bad for her because she likes to play music. She said that because she's been working so much, she hasn't had time to just like play the guitar. She has to
music.
Like she lacks sleep because she wants to make time to play guitar and have her make her music and that type of stuff. So I'm kind of like, oh, that's a little bit sad.
She wakes up in the middle of the night and, like, you know, she can't sleep, and so she's like playing music and stuff to like get her creative juices flowing, I guess. And we also kind of see her in a studio working with another music producer, and she's actually writing her own material. And in the documentary, she says, like, a lot of the music that she's creating in that studio is actually like, it's not going to be released or anything like that. Like, she's just working it for herself. So yeah, I wonder if we're going to see like a Rose original.
I think definitely. I noticed there were some songs I didn't recognize. So some of the songs, I was like, wait a minute, I haven't heard this song before. And I would say I know all of Blackpink's songs. So I definitely think there's definitely a Rose solo coming out soon. Definitely, there has to be. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. What else to say about Rose?
Oh, actually, I really like the friendship between her and Lisa. So Lisa, there was that. I was just like, oh, that's so adorable how they're always just like with each other and just how like the banter that they have. They definitely have a really close relationship, and I just thought that was really cute as well. Good friendship,
Yeah. There's this like really wonderful story of like where they talk about in the documentary where Rose, when she joins Blackpink for the first time, when she goes into the dome where there's all the other trainees, and she talks about how she saw Lisa and Jennie and Jisoo. They were just there. Everyone was asleep and it was just the three of them, and they just sort of like vibed and sang with each other throughout the night. And this was like, I think her first night, like arriving at YG Entertainment after the audition. So it was like, we see the seeds of their friendship sort of began like kind of there. So I thought that was like a really sweet story. So let's talk about the training, right? I've kind of like talked about it in our last video before, but we actually get to see the machinations of like how a major music production label puts together a band. So one thing I was really surprised about was that I thought they like audition the girls and then they just bring 4 of them in and they just train together. I didn't realize there was actually another screening process. There's actually another audition process. So it's not just 4 girls that they pick. They pick like something like 20 or 30 girls, and one by one, they all just kind of like get eliminated and we're left with just the 4. So I thought that was a huge surprise for me. Did you know that they were, as they were training, they were actually competing with other girls?
Yeah. I've watched quite a few documentaries. Again, like I am a long-time K-pop fan, so I am aware that like there are some like Blackpink's training time is relatively similar to each other, so like 4 or 5 years, however. But there are some other girl groups. So it's like one person has been training for 10 years of their life, and then someone who's only trained for 1 year, but they get put together in a group. That's if you know the girl group Twice, if you've heard of them. They're kind of like that, where they've got different members that kind of just put together. They've trained for different amounts of time, all that type of stuff. So I'm aware that does happen. What I didn't know was that, because I knew every month they had this like, I guess kind of like almost like an exam, but for dancing and singing. I didn't realize that they eliminated girls. I was like, oh my God, the amount of pressure. one girl was gone the next time. I was like, oh, that'll be so scary. And like the amount of stress that would put, and especially these girls are young, they're like teenagers. Like, I know how stressful I got during my like year 12 exams. Like imagine this where you actually like is literally the end of if you don't do well in like a monthly examination. Like that's pretty stressful. So good for them.
Documentary actually shows you how competitive it is, like the audition process as well as the induction process of becoming a girl group. They have like something like a crazy schedule that they talk about, like something about they train like and dance and sing for 13 days. Yeah,
13 days and then 14 hours a day of training or something, like dancing in.
Yeah. I realized that they just train in that same like dimly lit dance studio the whole time. I was like, surely they must have trained in other areas of the building as well. But I guess, I don't know. I don't know how big YG Entertainment is. I mean, we're talking about the same music production company that was responsible for Psy, right? Like they produced Gangnam Style, right? So I would imagine they'd be pretty huge.
I guess another thing that we could definitely bring up is the fact that they live together. So there was a scene where they kind of showed the entire building and they live together as well. So I guess because they've also lived together as well. Don't just train every day, but the fact that they're together 24/7 as well, that definitely plays a role in their genuine friendships. But also I can just imagine like obviously because of COVID right now we're at homes with our families, like even I get annoyed at my parents because we're together all the time. Yeah. Like you just imagine the fights they would have had, or just like even little like I guess little arguments that they've had and things like that. And I guess that definitely would have helped them to create this type of friendship that they have. And it obviously flows into their work as well, that they work together so well. So I think that maybe something that wasn't discussed very well, or at least in detail, is that when you live there. You don't live in your own house. You live at the I guess the company building, the
dorm. The
and even Jennie said that she kind of wished that she was able to kind of live at home or like elsewhere so that she can have these experiences as a normal teenager. But she kind of regrets it, but doesn't regret it at the same time.
I mean, one of the things that she talks about is the sort of the price of fame, right? But I guess, instead, she has an incredible music career and she's well known. So I guess that's just the sacrifice you have to make.
I also really like that it didn't, I think because they also trained together for so long, it wasn't just, I think this girl and this girl and this girl could do very well. Like you knew that, as like Rosie, like you said, four of them, they sat together at night singing and harmonizing. And I think that was really good. It didn't feel fake, you know what I mean? Like they weren't manufactured. A lot of people, when they think of the word K-pop, is manufactured.
Exactly.
But like it just felt very like they were meant to be together. They were meant to become Blackpink to me. Yeah. I personally think, I don't know what it is about Blackpink, but they feel so genuine. Like a lot of, again, I am a big K-pop fan, so I am aware of all these other K-pop groups as well. But I feel like a lot of K-pop groups are kind of just selected and they're just put together. But from the beginning, from when I saw them, they felt like they were meant to be, almost, that type of thing. That's the feeling that I get from them. And I feel like they genuinely love each other. Like there's a great friendship within these girls. They're literally sisters. I think that's what I see from them. And I can see that from when they speak, like when they're speaking in that band. It's so genuine, I think. It's not, I don't think it's fake. Again, I can't really say, but I feel like it's just a genuine connection that they have with each other.
Like it doesn't feel like it's being put on for the camera. It doesn't seem like they're just being nice to each other because, there's a camera filming them. It really feels like they have been through a journey together and they have experienced a lot of like challenges and hardships together. And I think maybe that's what the music producer saw. Jisoo talks about synergy. And when you have a synergy amongst a core group of girl members, and then it creates that sort of spirit, that sort of energy that you can't really get, if it's just like faked or manufactured, if these girls don't have a genuine friendship with each other. And I think that is what feeds into their popularity as a group. Do you want to talk about their debut? Let's talk about their debut. Okay, so this is actually how they opened the documentary with. They showed each individual members walking onto a stage. And this is where they get introduced as Blackpink, right? And they are like in this hall with a room. Everybody has their monitors on. And then we have each Blackpink member introducing their name. but nobody claps. There's no applause or anything like that. Everyone's just like, scrolling, and we hear a lot of like mouse clicking away and stuff. I don't understand what that room is. Do you know?
No, I actually don't know as well. I think from what I remember, a lot of K-pop groups, when they debut, they have like a showcase. So that's just them performing their songs. But actually, that's something I didn't really notice. I think because they came from YG, which is one of the top 3 like K-pop companies, I don't think they really needed to perform. There was so much like anticipation for their debut that they didn't really need to perform. So I'm actually not quite sure what the room and the clicking.
Is that like a press
maybe?
room, maybe? It's like the press.
It's not.
I was just kind of like, oh, this is like a weird room where they're announcing themselves, but like everyone's just on their screens, and maybe like every person is like from a different like publication or something, and they're like, oh, it's been announced, we need to send this news out, we need to write these articles. But yeah, we see their debut. It's, they talk about like their songs hitting the charts and like having huge success like almost immediately. Like it's really hard to imagine. They said how they nearly didn't want to use Whistle, the song. I was like, how could you not use Whistle?
Well,
like it's, in retrospective.
To be fair, I remember the music video that they released first was Boombayah. So I don't think they really brought up Boombayah that much. Which
no, they didn't.
Because
that was the thing that launched them to fame, right?
And then Whistle came out. So then I was kind of a little bit confused why Boombayah wasn't brought up, because that was definitely, when I saw that video, I was like, oh my God, this girl group is lit. And then, I don't know. I felt like maybe they should have talked about Boombayah a little bit as well. But I guess because Whistle was their debut song. And I see where a lot of their arguments were coming from. It's not very like, boom. It's not a very song that's, like, honestly, Boombayah was very catchy. Like, not saying Whistle wasn't, but it's
attention grabbing, right?
Attention grabbing. Whistle was almost empty compared to that. So I think it was good on them for taking that risk. But to be honest, because it was YG's first girl group that came out in 7 years, I had they were going to do well regardless. I personally think.
Okay. Yeah. No, I completely understand what you're. So there was just a lot riding on their debut, right? So I guess like when you are just starting to launch your girl band for the first time, there's a lot of thinking that goes behind what kind of music you want to start with, which song you want to go for. Do you remember like when you started hearing about them and when you like started becoming a fan? Like it must be not.
Well, back then I was actually a part of a Korean club. So like I think just because I was part of that Korean club, everyone was like, oh my God, it's finally a new girl group. Because like I think I remember like in 2013 or 14, maybe it was 14 or 15, that's when the Big Bang concert like happened. So I remember going to that concert, I remember going to the GD concert, and I just think because I have an affiliation with that like just K-pop in general, that an upcoming girl group from this large company, because there are, I would say the top 3 arguably, but like you've got JYP, you've got YG, and you've got SM Town. So whenever a group comes from any of these 3 companies, there's always going to be a big hype. So then back then, obviously because I was part of a Korean club, that there was a lot of, everyone knew that they were coming. So there was a lot of anticipation for them as well. I just knew that they were coming. I think there was more secrecy behind the members. The marketing for Blackpink, I correct me if I'm wrong, but it was very secretive. It wasn't released until like maybe when they actually debuted. So
yeah. I can't correct you if you're wrong because I have no idea. I came into like knowing Blackpink very late. So but yeah, I think the general impression is that they kept it very mysterious, and I think that's what made their launch so successful, because you wanted to know more about this group, right? I would just say that there was one bit that I got emotional. It was the part when Lisa goes back to Thailand. She has a huge like Thai fan base, and just the idea of her returning back to her hometown, and like she even says like it feels like she's kind of made it, like they feel like she's been successful and she's like one of them. There
was one line that really struck with me, like when she went back to Thailand, she said, do I really deserve to be like a role model for these people? And I was like, oh no. But I guess like everyone has insecurities, and especially just like being held at such a high standard. I mean, that's a lot of pressure to have. So I guess it's fair enough that she has these insecurities about herself. That is she good enough to represent her country, you know?
Yeah. And she's so young, you know, like obviously when you're that young and you acquire this level of celebrity fame, you feel these responsibilities being put on your shoulders. But for me, it was more like, you're still young. You don't have to worry about being a role model yet. You can just like go on, make your music, just have fun, you know? Basically from this point onwards, they talk about their 2019 world tour. So they start with talking about their appearance at Coachella. I remember hearing about this, but could you maybe fill in the details of how Coachella works? Like, so Coachella is basically all these musicians performing in this one event, right? Now, I got the impression that Coachella is like a music event that takes place across several days, and one day was completely dedicated to Blackpink. Is that correct? Or is there like several musicians on the same day and their part just happens to come after the previous musician? Is that how it works?
So it wasn't one day dedicated. I mean, again, because Coachella is a US music event. So I think you're correct that it is, I think it was like a 3-day music event, and then on each day they have different people play, and I think Blackpink just happened to be on one of those days, but usually there are artists that play at different times. So I think there's like different like stages set up. So say if Blackpink was performing and then there was another big star, say Ariana Grande or something, I think they didn't expect like people to go to them over Ariana Grande or someone like that. So I think you definitely recognize the impact that they've had, that, you know, they are a non-English speaking group in US of A. And, you know, you see the footage of this so many people in the crowd, and the fact that they said themselves that we genuinely thought there was only going to be 100 or 200. I think they recognized that their popularity in Korea, but I guess that they didn't recognize how popular outside, like, you know, the international sphere.
They didn't fully have a grasp yet of what their appeal was overseas. I was just kind of like, wow, there was a huge turnover for them, and obviously they hit really big at Coachella, and that's what sort of launched they started appearing at these major variety TV shows, and then they started their tour. They did lots of concerts in America, and then they started going to Asia as well, and we got to attend one of them. So that was amazing. And then, basically they talked about like their dancing and stuff and how grueling it was, the challenges of like having to move to a different country, do a concert, and then there's just a continuous routine of packing and unpacking. And that's sort of like the demands of having a concert tour. Like we get to see the toll that it takes on them mentally and physically as well.
I think there was something that was really interesting that they stated. They said that when we're not working, you want to rest, but then when you're resting, you want to work. And I was kind of like, oh, that's really sad that like even when they should be allowed to have some time off, that they feel like they need to be working, they need to make more music. And I think it's almost a little bit of a bad cycle, because to be honest, they aren't very, I mean, they don't release as many songs as all these other K-pop groups. As like, again, after 4 years, they have their first album. But the fact that, you know, in 3 years, they go on a world tour, that's a different type of working, I would say, compared to other K-pop groups who are always just like constantly releasing new songs and stuff like that. But I don't know, I just felt really sad for them, the fact that they can't enjoy work is just always on their mind, even on a day where they're meant to rest. They feel like they don't have if they're resting and they're not working, then what's the point of, you know, being in this role? And I just felt really sad. I just want them to have rest. They deserve it.
They're so busy, right? That like, I think there's like a shot of them like in the van and they're just eating like meat pies. Like that's how busy they were. And some people just don't know, like, you know, it's doing a concert and having so much dance choreography to like, you have to remember and to memorize and to have to do that on stage, you know, almost every night. That's like exhausting. Like we see them, like some of them, like they start getting like homesick and stuff. They start thinking about home. We see like Rosie, she's like crying on stage and stuff. And
I think that's the part that got me emotional, when they were like, I'm so thankful to have all of this. And that she missed home, and Rosie was crying, and then Jennie cried, and then Lisa cried, but Jisoo didn't cry. And I think that demonstrates her privateness as well. But it was just really funny because they were in the van. I think after that, they were like, oh, when Rose is the most emotional one. So when she cries, and then Lisa cries, and then Jennie cries, and then Jisoo goes, I don't cry. And it just made me laugh. Like, I think I'm definitely got a great more appreciation for Jisoo. She made me laugh. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Everyone just cried, and you really understand like the hurdles that they're facing. The thing that she said like really resonated, like the fact that like not all you guys see is the music, the stage, and the concerts. You don't see the behind the scenes, and I think the documentary definitely did a good job of like showing some of the behind the scenes stuff. Because at the end of the day, they're just humans. They just they have, yes, they are very, very famous and very, very wealthy, but I guess that's the price that comes with fame. You just got to keep that machine going.
Yeah.
Hopefully they are well rested now, and and just focusing on their music instead of worrying about doing concert tours for a while.
And when we go towards the end of the documentary, that little chat that they have in that restaurant, I think it leaves open that we're at a point in our times where we can work that hard. When we're 40, that's when we can rest.
Yeah. We enjoy our life. Yeah, we can just relax, things like that. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like, we can talk about the restaurant, I guess, where they're just like eating Korean food and stuff. And it's a nice kind of way to like end documentary, because it's like we see the waiter, and the waiter has actually like known them since their trainee days, and now he's like seeing that they've become like huge now. I do wonder with the restaurant scene. Like, I wonder if they just like booked the entire restaurant
Probably.
And they're just like, Blackpink's gonna come and they're gonna eat here, so we just need you to clear the room. We're gonna pay this much money. And there's just a lot of scenes like that in the documentary where it's just like,
the amount of people that were running and screaming for them, and like, I was just like, oh my God, I'll be so overwhelmed.
Yeah. Which is why those scenes of like Rosie and Jennie just going around taking photos, and Lisa and Rosie just like having like, iced tea. I'm like, I wonder if like, because you don't see anybody with them. You see Jisoo crossing the street by herself. And I do wonder if like there's like, they have a huge entourage of people just blocking like people away from the paparazzi and stuff. Like, it's hard to imagine them like having a normal life, right?
I mean, I guess
doing their day,
because they're from Korea, there are a lot of K-pop groups. I think people are very used to seeing K-pop stars, but when they go international, it's like, oh my God, like it's like if we saw Ariana Grande or like Taylor Swift coming to Australia, like of course you want to see them. They're not from Australia, so I guess potentially that could also play a role, that maybe Koreans are very used to seeing all these K-pop stars just randomly walking around, so maybe it's not a big deal. That could also play a role, I think.
But yeah, so the scene ends with them at the restaurant, and then the documentary ends with Pretty Savage as the title song, which is inching closer to my prediction that song is gonna be like the next music video.
They are performing it, but they've been performing Pretty Savage and Lovesick Girls. Yeah,
performing where?
I think just on so they're like music shows in Korea. So
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Did you feel like there was a bias on any of the individual members, or do you think that it was pretty even? Like all members got their due in a documentary?
I think I wouldn't say bias, but I think Jennie's part left more of an impression on me compared to everyone else. So I wouldn't say bias. I honestly, I can't remember how long of a writing time each person had, but I definitely felt like, again, Jisoo didn't have that much of a part. I didn't really learn too much about her, but I think Jennie, and in her interview, it resonated with me a lot more because it kind of explained all this controversy that she had been getting into. But I wouldn't say bias, no, just more left a deeper impression.
I thought there was going to be more bias on Rosie for some reason, but I felt overall it was pretty even. If anything, I felt like Lisa was my MVP in this documentary. I thought like I really... I just like have a newfound like appreciation, and I really like admire her. Was there anything that really stood out to you in terms of like any like really, really surprising things that you didn't already know about the members that you didn't already mention, I guess?
I mean, if we're talking, I guess, about the family life, I think it was very interesting to hear about their family life and how I guess Rosie kind of moved away when she was like 15. I don't recall hearing too much about Lisa, but I do know like Lisa's parents are actually quite rich. I think they're in charge of like hospitals in Thailand, so they didn't. I mean, again, this is from my own research, but like the family life. Because I know Jennie's one, they did talk about how it was just her and her mother. Rosie, they talked about it, but I didn't really feel much from Lisa and Jisoo.
And I think I would have liked to see an interview with the family members, like hear them speak about their daughter's successes, I guess, so to speak. Like what does, what does Jennie's mom think about her? What do Rosie's parents think about, Rosie's success? Like her father her father played a huge part in getting Rosie to do the YG Entertainment audition. So I would have liked to see more of that, but I don't know. I wonder if some of that might be just privacy. Like maybe they don't want people to know who their parents are, what their parents look like.
Yeah.
Because they're already getting enough attention from the paparazzi, so they don't want like the paparazzi to be showing up at their parents' house or something.
Yeah, definitely.
So they maybe that. I think like obviously the documentary is like it's 80 minutes. So I think they packed in as much as they could. We don't want this documentary to be like 2 hours or anything like that. We just want it to be nice, short, sort of entertaining, and also give us a glimpse of each individual members.
They didn't really bring up any controversies that Blackpink had. I think in a lot of documentaries they always discuss like a turning point in someone's career. So for example, if they made a documentary about like Lance Armstrong or something, they need to bring up the I guess the drug,
like the doping and stuff.
I felt like, I guess Blackpink hasn't really been in that much controversy, I guess, but I think potentially that they did leave out some. For example, we were talking about the nurse outfit in like the controversy that came
in
out.
How You Like That, right?
In Lovesick Girls, sorry.
Lovesick Girls, yeah. Oh, sorry, yes, yeah. So the controversy is some people were saying that like they were potentially making fun of like nurses and mental health and stuff. I
guess it could. I mean, they did leave out a lot of controversy. So I think normally in a documentary, I always feel like there's that point that they like a controversy that they talk about. They didn't talk about anything here. It was just more about the fact that they got onto a world tour. I did feel that it did also jump from Whistle and then bam, world tour, and not about all the other songs as well. Because like obviously, yes, they were big, but they eventually got bigger and bigger and bigger. It kind of just went from here, stage one, and then bam. But I guess, I mean, either way, I think it was fine overall. Like maybe the purpose of the documentary wasn't to discuss that. It was just more, to share their experiences.
Experience and their lives, who knows, they might make another documentary after this, right? Where they're actually going to go into detail about, because I feel like, I agree with you that the music creation process is something that I wanted a little bit more, like what goes into the different songs, what do each songs mean to the individual members, how they arrived at the final product, I guess, so to speak. So some of that was like not really covered, but I guess they covered one or two songs. Like I would like to know, like, because they have so many songs, like I don't think Kill This Love was even mentioned as much, I mean,
I think it was fine overall.
Yeah, overall.
Into their life, everything, as you said, like you don't want it to be too long. 80 minutes is fine for a documentary.
Do you feel like the size of the production crew has been kind of misrepresented a little bit in terms of the scale?
In terms of like music video, or do you mean like the documentary?
I mean as in terms of the people that are involved with Blackpink, because I got the sense that this documentary doesn't really convey the scale and the size of the production team that are responsible for Blackpink as a team. Because the documentary starts and we are in the studio and it's just one music producer plus an assistant and the four girls. Like I'm a little bit skeptical about that because it makes it seem like, there's only like a handful of people involved in the creation of music. Whereas I feel like this is like one of the biggest, if not the biggest K-pop girl groups right now. Surely there's like an army of songwriters, music producers, and people that are involved in the creation of music. Like, so I feel like the documentary like doesn't really show us how big their production crew is. What do you think?
I mean, I guess it really depends. I think, because I personally think that this documentary was more about them overall. Because I do watch, for example, when Lovesick came out, they released a lot of like behind the scenes of making photo shoots and things like that. So I think if we want to see that type of like that aspect of, their career, we can just go watch those videos. You don't necessarily need to put it in a documentary. But no, I do think you're right that it does almost minimalize how much people, like I'm sure these girls have so many costume like there was that scene,
and makeup artists,
like and not just the music crew. There's also that
Yeah.
choreographers. Like I think you are correct, but I don't think that
was the focus.
Was the focus, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. You talked about the Q&A session before. So this was the Q&A session that they held in anticipation of the release of the documentary.
Literally just the day before. I think it was Tuesday,
you said you had a question for them. What question did you...
Oh, well, I wanted
did you want to talk about it, or...?
Yeah, I don't mind. Well, the thing is, I actually didn't put in an application because I was one day late.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I obviously looked at it a little bit too late. But I think the question that I did want to ask is, if you weren't in this career, what would you want to do?
That's a really good question.
And I think they did. I think with
mention
Jisoo,
a little bit.
I think I remember her say, I think Jisoo said she wanted to become a like an actor or something like that. But like, you know, I wanted to see if they didn't go down this line, or you know, if Rosie didn't go into the YG audition, she didn't. Like, what was her path then? I think that would be really interesting to know. So I think, that was the question I wanted to ask them. Yeah.
That's a really good question, Hannah. Like, I think that would be a nice one. Yeah. Best movie of the year? You said about, you talked about how, like, it's been a terrible year for movies this year. And I just feel like, wow, this documentary is probably the best thing I've seen all year. Right?
I mean, with our discussion with Mulan last time, who knows? I mean, maybe.
Yeah, potentially. Like, I would go back and rewatch this documentary in a heartbeat, you know? How many times have you seen it now?
Oh, just one.
Just one? Yeah. Definitely I think I'll definitely go back and rewatch it again a few times. Closing thoughts? Any last things that you wanted to say?
I mean, I think overall this documentary showed us that these superstars are still human. They have feelings, they have insecurities, and I think a lot of people forget that as well. They put them on such pedestals that they forget.
They're just people. Yeah. And I think that's what the documentary is trying to do. It's trying to break down the separation, you know, between the audience and the celebrity, and just like giving us an insight into what their lives are like. So I think that was a good thing. Yeah. So guys, that's our review of Blackpink, Light Up the Sky. If you've enjoyed this discussion, please hit the like button. We also, as previously mentioned, we also did a review of the Blackpink album. It's just called The Album. I will put a link in the description. But yeah, thanks guys. Thank you so much for watching. And I just want to say thank you again to Hannah. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me for the third time.
Yeah, no worries. Yes, no, thank you, because
thank you.
It's an honor to have you. Always fun to, you know, chat with you, and especially about Blackpink. So I'm really glad to to do that. So yeah, thanks guys. Thanks all
everyone.
For watching. Thanks everyone. Bye. Hey Hannah, bye. How you like that?